Hi, I'm Laurie Laizure from Interior Design Community, and I have a wonderful show for To the Trade today. We are going to be talking to some experts, but first I'm going to introduce my co-host, Michael Kastner. Tell me a little bit about your business and why you're even my co-host today.
Hi, everyone. Michael Kestner here from Kestner Designs in Philadelphia. I'm a solopreneur running a kitchen and bath design business for the past 20 years, and I'm happy to join Laurie on this podcast. We're trying to deliver pertinent, relevant information to the design trade and all the interior designers out there who may watch or listen to our podcast. And we're just really happy to be able to be here giving you top-notch information and really from a helpful standpoint. Looking forward to working here.
Yes, I am excited you're here too. And we have our amazing guest, Kris Kennedy, who is just the premier expert on branding in the interior design industry. You're not going to be anybody who knows as much as she does. Kris, tell us about you and your business.
Hi, also super nice to meet you, Michael, and nice to see you again, Laurie. I run LoudHouse Branding, which is a strategic branding consultancy that builds powerhouse brands for the home design industry. And my approach is to really use strategy. I go far beyond what you would consider traditional branding and instead really marry brand identity with financial and operational strategy so that all of your efforts as a business owner are pointed towards your view of success for your business in the long term. So it's not just about marketing. Marketing is one piece of it. I really use brand to drive the activities of the entire business. And I mean, you know me, I could talk about brand all day, every day. Like, I just think it's so interesting.
I know, and I actually love that about you. We talk a lot.
I'm a nerd, yeah.
So, you know the design industry. You know that a lot of designers start their businesses solo entrepreneur, and branding is not the first thing they're thinking about. They're thinking maybe about how am I going to get that first client? How am I going to pay my bills? Things like that. What is branding, and how important is it that designers develop that on the early side of their business?
It's, when you sent me the title of the topic for this conversation, and I don't remember the exact wording, but it had to do with brand and it had to do with personal brand. And I'm like, wow, just in that like one statement, there is a lot to unpack there, because first you have to talk about what's a brand, because it's almost never what people think it is. I think folks are often thinking when they're thinking about branding, they're thinking about their logo, they're thinking about their color, their brand colors and their fonts. And that is your like brand visual identity. But what a brand actually is what other people think about you. It is like brand is actually a very amorphous concept. It's basically your reputation. It's what other people say about you, what they think about you. So I consider brand strategy to be the act of trying to influence how other people think about you. And there is a marketing component to that, obviously. So, what does your website look like, and what your logo looks like, and all that, what your main messages are. That has some effect on how people think about you. But even, I don't know, maybe even more than that is just actually how you run your business. So it's how you're interacting with your potential clients, with your clients. Once you have them, what kind of experience are they having with you? That is as important as, like the Instagram post that you put up there. So when you're trying to influence people's perceptions, that is everything from your very like how you answer the phone to what, like how easy the invoicing process is for them, or the types of vendors that you're using in terms of, is that going to make, the type of client you want to work with happy? Like all of your activities are part of how does that person experience what your brand is. So that's a
Wow.
That's a great answer.
I am seeing the emoji with the head exploding. That is a lot to, first of all,
It's a
probably
lot.
everyone listening is unpacking their whole life story right now, and they're saying, where do I begin? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. That's a lot. I mean, even for me, a veteran in the design industry, and this is fantastic information. I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah. And that actually leads us to a great question. What are the first steps that you need to take to try to figure out what your brand is?
And that's totally fair. And, you were saying, Laurie, when somebody is just starting out, like, is that, you have other concerns. When you are first starting, you're just trying to live, and if you have a traditional interior design service business model, you're and you're not, you don't have you don't have all these addition of alternative revenue streams and products and retailing and stuff like that. Just say you're doing the interior design business and you're just starting out, you're getting referrals, you're getting like family referrals and friend referrals and people who probably live in your geographic area. You're getting a little, client love that way, and you're just trying to like cover your expenses and get started out there. Like you have very practical issues that you're dealing with. At the same time, people are feeling a lot of pressure on, like I have to do all, whatever. Should I be on TikTok or Instagram Reels? And, and I need to do social media, and I need, which email marketing platform should I sign up for? And, like there's just so much. And so, when you're thinking about branding, I think the tendency is for folks who are just starting out to, because you're trying to get the money, they often will be like, I can do anything for anybody. I am, because you just want to take whatever business that you can get. So I think folks are often afraid of not, presenting themselves in such a way that like, somebody's not going to come to them. So you just want anything. And when you try to be everything to everyone, you're really know nothing. Like you're
Anyone,
not
right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just there is nothing about you that stands out that would make other people hire you. So if you can spend any time thinking about what it is, especially that you have to offer, and if you can spend any amount of time thinking about who it is that you really want to serve and the kinds of projects that you want to work on, if you can get any specificity around that at all and talk about that, that is actually helpful, because the people who are looking for somebody like you then will know they're in the right place when they find you. So I mean, it can be anything. I mean, maybe you're somebody who you have a particular facility with color, color combinations. You can become the color person, and and if people who love neutrals don't come to you, that's okay, because the people who do love color will be able to find you. Or maybe you are good at like kitchen and bath, like space planning and fixtures and all that, and that's more your area of expertise, as opposed to like as many soft goods, whatever it is. And it doesn't preclude you from taking any client that you want. Like you can take on anybody, or anybody can hire you. But if you do happen to be really good at kitchen and bath, and you want more kitchen and bath products, it's okay to say that about yourself, so that kitchen and bath people will be able to find you.
Yeah, I think that's, I think that's really what most designers maybe struggle with. I think right there in a nutshell, they're thinking, if I get specific, that might rule me out, but getting specific helps you get that client. Like I know that there are people who have clients that are divorced dads or their specialty, or clients with young families or their specialty, or they're, like you said, the color person. So how, once they kind of, how do they maybe identify who that particular client, what their ideal client looks like?
So, when I go through this exercise with my clients, I I think one really important thing to remember is, who do you want to be working with, as opposed to who you've been working with up until now. Because almost invariably, the first time when I ask a client the question, who, like, what kind of person is your ideal client that you want to be working with, the answer will be, well, I've been most successful with blah, blah, blah. I've been like, suburban stay-at-home moms is who I'm getting a lot, and I get a lot of money from that, maybe it's that kind of person. But that actually doesn't answer the question of who you want to be working with in the future. And, you might be somebody who, maybe you want to just work in do urban high-rise condos like that. Or you just want to work, in Miami, or you just want to work on vacation homes, or you want to start to do hospitality. The business that you're getting now isn't necessarily what you're going to be doing in the future. So, that's one thing to think about, is like, can you separate those two? It may be for the next 5 years, 50 to 75% of your actual projects are going to be your existing suburban moms. But if you are messaging to your Miami high-rise condo folks that you're really good at Miami high-rise condos, then the Miami high-rise condo people are going to be able to find you.
So how does market research fit into that? If you don't know, because I think that that's one of the things that happens, is designers will say often to me, and I talk to designers all the time, I don't know what my ideal client is. I don't know. I just want to make a successful living. How do I narrow that down? And maybe it's something that they should start with market research and understanding their area. How is that something that you do too?
That's such a good question, Laurie. That is almost never a question that I hear, but it's so important. And it's actually something I don't even talk about that much in, kind of like, I don't know, just in my own marketing messaging, because it's a really important, but it's a bit of a labor intensive task. So it is something that I do, but it is also something that people can can do for themselves. And so I would divide that, when you're talking about research, I would divide it into two parts. One is market research, and then one is kind of client research. And if you're trying to kind of figure out like what your own special sauce is, because a lot of people don't know, what it is that that's special about them or what they're good at. I mean, first start by, either you can do it or you can have a representative do it for you. Interview your past clients and ask them. And sometimes, I mean, that's why it's good for me to do it for my clients, because they can be, sometimes feel a little bit more open with me than they would, directly to your face. But you can have a representative or an assistant or something, ask for you, but just say, can you, can I have 15 minutes of your time? We appreciated you, value you so much as a client, and, really appreciate your input. And we always want to improve. So any feedback that you can give, and, and they'll usually tell you what it is you were good at, what it is you weren't that good at, a service that they wish that you offered, that they didn't see at the time. So, your existing clients will be able to tell you, give you a lot of information about yourself. And then, you can do market research in your area, with the interior design, you're generally, starting with like a geographic based business. So, you are at least to start out with confined by the area in which you are willing to travel, so for, people who are just starting out, it's like usually your city, right? So who else is working in your area in the market where you currently have a toehold? You'll have your like really big name, flashy, award-winning designers that are, often in magazines. And if you're already kind of at that level, you know who those folks are. But if you're just starting out, you probably going to have to do a little bit more research, do Google searches. Who else is out there? How are they presenting themselves? What are they saying they good at? Who are they saying that they're serving? And how are you distinctive? How do you stand out from that group of folks?
I think part of that is going to be a little bit of a rite of passage for a budding designer, someone who's just starting out, because they don't have the past clientele to provide feedback. And I think that maybe taking a job to explore, or just seeking out projects to find out if that's their niche, right? Because some things are going to land better than others, and the feedback is critical, and anyone who doesn't solicit feedback from their past clients is really missing a great opportunity, because you were already there. Ask the questions, get the feedback. But to your point, Kris, I feel like some people might not know where the research is. I know with National Kitchen Bath Association, I'm a member with them, and they provide market research to people periodically through email. A new person in the industry, I would definitely recommend subscribing to the periodicals of different magazines and joining some association, if not the National Kitchen Bath Association, one of the design community ones, and just figuring out where they can get information. I think our platform here is also a lovely resource that's going to promote a lot of tangible information for people who really don't know where to turn. Because sometimes when you're starting out, it's a lonely world,
I
and you feel
agree.
like, I can't get the phone call. I can't get the answers to the phone calls. People are not responding to my DMs on Instagram. It happens to me in today's day and age, and I have a huge network, but sometimes people's time is it's really tied up and it's hard to get to them. So patience is a virtue with this. I think you would agree to.
Yeah, I think it is, but I think that Kris's point about too that was really, really strong was, and I don't want to gloss over this, is spending that time. You can get data and from organizations, but rarely is that very regional to your region. So if you don't have past due clients, if you don't have past clients that you can talk to, then it's even more important, I think, to really study the websites that are already there in your area, so that you can figure out what maybe you can create a niche that is different than what is being offered. And that would give you the best chance of success if you just have no direction from the very beginning.
Like finding your voice, right? Finding your voice amidst all the voices that are in your area.
Right, right. So what do you think that
Laurie, can I actually
go ahead. Go ahead.
I have three quick points to what you both are saying. The first one is, for folks who don't have any past clients, I also think it is totally fair to just interview people in your life who know you. So like people who are close to you, like your good friends, or maybe people that you studied with, or some of your own bosses, like anything, like to give people will have opinions about what your strengths and weaknesses are. So like, even if it's not, specific to an interior design project, if you are just starting out, somebody is going to, be able to say like, oh, you're very methodical, or you're very creative, or you're really good with process and follow-up, or really good with communication, like, something. So it gives you something to work with too. So it's crazy how you can now use Chat GPT to do some market research for you. So, honestly, that's a whole other podcast, but you can just go in there and pay for the Chat GPT for the $20 a month. It is like well worth it. And if you don't know where to start, say, I want to do market research on this area and I don't know where to start. Can you please direct me on what questions to ask you, or, how to find out this information to do some market research. And then what I wanted to say to your point, Michael, is in terms of finding out what it is that you want and where you're good at. I totally agree with that, that iterative approach, because I think females especially, I feel like we have to be perfect, and you just kind of have to nail it right off the bat. And I really always want to give people permission to try and learn, everything is just a learning experience. And maybe you think you want to do Miami condos, and then you get down there and you realize the logistics are too difficult. The Miami people are not very nice to you, whatever it is, you tried it and you didn't love it, and that's okay. Move on. It's okay to try things and learn, and people evolve, designers evolve. As designers get bigger projects, or they have more flexibility, or they have more support staff or whatever, what they're able to do is different, 15 years in, than what you're able to do right now too. So, I think designers are always evolving anyway.
Yeah, I think ChatGPT is an excellent tool to not only find out your brand, help yourself find your brand identity, but also, do the tasks you need to do to get content out there that would project that brand to your audience. How consistent do you think personal branding needs to be, maintaining a presence across platforms and channels? I mean, that's the trouble I think most designers are facing now, is being a little spread thin. They were on Facebook groups, maybe, and Facebook pages, then they had Instagram to manage. Now they might be trying TikTok, they might be trying a podcast, they might be trying, to do a video show on YouTube or something. And it's a lot. And I can sense it from designers that they're feeling very overwhelmed, but is that, if they're going to do that, and how should they do that? And is the consistency important?
Okay, that's another one of those. Wow, there's a lot to unpack actually in what you just said. There's actually 3 different topics there. One is there are so many channels, and what do you, hone in on? And so to that point specifically, number one, where's your audience at? Where are they already spending time? So, do you have a super young audience? Do you have more of an older, more professionally established audience? Do you have a very serious audience that cares about, they're all about the numbers and process, or do you have are you, is your audience more of I'm really into woo and how the space feels, and where are they hanging out? So that's one piece of it. And the other piece of it is what do you have the bandwidth and interest in actually doing? Because you should do the thing that you are able to do. I mean, we are getting more options all the time. I also find it overwhelming. And I increasingly, even for myself, feel like I'm just going to do the thing that feels easier and more natural to me, and just stake that out and own it. You don't need to do everything. Just start with one. And if you get a handle on one channel or one platform, then go to the other one.
Right.
You're really good at communities, right? That's a skill set that you have. That's not my thing so much, I don't have the natural energy to go in and manage lots of group conversations in sort of community platforms. I'd probably more have a teacher type of personality. So I know that, and I'm not going to try and be something that I'm just not naturally. So, just kind of go what feels natural. In terms of being consistent, so when people, you hear that a lot, people recommending you have to be consistent, you have to be consistent. And I don't think of it like the way that I hear it from other people is you have to impose discipline on yourself and you have to follow these rules and, and it all has to be like perfect. I think of it more as, oh my gosh, there's so much you could say and so much you could do, and it's so much effort and it takes so much time. Like just do the smallest amount of effort that you need to do in order to get kind of the biggest bang for your time, So like you could say 100 things about your business or what you do or how you do it, but like you really only need to like you know repeat like 3 or 4 things that people really need to know about you, and just say those in different ways or expand upon those in different ways. So to me, that's the way that I interpret being consistent is like, don't kill yourself, trying to come up with like new, different, novel all the time, because the chances that your audience has even heard your most important message is so slim just because of the algorithms. They're just probably not going to see. You think that you made the point already that you're really good with color, you know, 80% of people have never seen that. Like you need to say that in different ways a lot.
We had just
So
discussed that about Instagram, about repeating ourselves, and I already posted that. And should I post it again? And you think people see it, but you're right. Commercials take how many times to get their message across? That's a great point.
so in terms of being consistent, I think of it more as just like make it easier on yourself and focus on like the few messages that are most important. And then the other thing that you said about personal branding, and I just wanted to make this point too, when we use the term personal branding, there is a difference between personal branding and business branding. And it gets kind of fuzzy with interior design businesses because so frequently the interior design business is named after the lead designer. But there is a difference between personal brands because you can have everybody has a personal brand, whether you want one or not, because people have a perception of you and that's your brand. And so you could be working in any career or working for other people and you have a personal brand. Your business brand is, how people feel about your business. And if your name is on the business, there is some overlap, but they are two distinct things, on the business side, like everybody doesn't need to know everything about you, like personally, like you don't have to like completely expose your personal life in order to have a personal brand. And then there's also a lot of designers who have businesses that are their name, but they actually don't, because they want to maintain like quite a bit of privacy. So when we're working on their brand strategy, we are very specific about like how do you want people to perceive the business, and that is not the business doesn't necessarily have the same qualities that you do as an individual. So it's important to have a brand and people do have a perception of you as a individual, but what we're really like hoping for is that people are building the brand around their business, how people are perceiving their business, because hopefully you'll grow
Right.
and hopefully you'll have a staff at some point, and however your customers are interacting with your staff they should have exactly the same feeling about that as they do with you personally, or exactly the same feeling about your like project management communication or your website interaction or whatever it is, should all be the same feeling that they have.
I think that that is genius, because I think that you're right. There's so many of those businesses are overlapping because they started for this themselves. And actually that becomes a struggle when they do hire staff, because then, the impression, if it's too much built around their personal brand, the clients expect to work with them and get
Yes.
offended if they're put off to the
Yes.
junior designer, because they feel like, I'm paying to work with you directly, but there's only so many hours in the day for that designer to do that and to be able to grow successfully. So, it's a good to think about how much to interact or inject of your personal brand into your business too. So, and to think about that sort of in the beginning of, where do I want to be in 5 years? If I'm going to hire staff, some people, that's not their thing. They don't want to. They like working
Mhm.
themselves, and some people want to have that kind of business. They want to manage a team. And if that's your goal, you should be thinking about how you set that up from the very beginning, right?
So, I mean, the problem that you're highlighting, I mean, that is a, I hear that a lot. I mean, that's a persistent problem where you're setting your clients up for disappointment if they are not going to be working directly with you when you've built this whole brand around you as the like celebrity face. So yes, I totally agree with you on that. And what was the last point that you just made?
Well, I was just saying, how should you be setting it up in the beginning?
Oh yeah. So the other thing to think about, and you don't usually think about this right at the beginning, but clients do start thinking about this several years in, is your business a saleable asset? Like, are you building it that way? Because if you are thinking that it is something that you can sell later on, but you have so built the business around your participation in it, it makes it less attractive to sell. Or can you build something that is a bit more of a system that has really brand guidelines and a consistent customer experience that maybe somebody wants to take over? That's very much more down the line, business, but it is something to think about as you're building your brand and how much you want to make it about yourself.
That actually makes me think, and this is a tough question. I'm sorry to nail you on this one, but do you think that designers should use their name as their business name?
I mean, I've gone. It depends. I mean, it depends on what your long-term goals are. And it's something that I've struggled with myself too. I am just now rebranding from my name to more of a business name. And the value of having your name associated with your business, and this is particularly true for somebody like me who already had name recognition in my industry as a magazine editor, is like people at the beginning are completely going off of what they know about me, my reputation and credibility, but it's never felt comfortable for me because I'm much more of a behind the scenes person, but for other folks, it's just what you want out of the business. I mean, a lot of people really they love being the face of the business, and they love being public personalities, and part of their legitimate goals as a business owner is to get public recognition for what the good job that they do, and that is okay. that is totally fine and okay. But there are just as many designers who are like, I just want to do design. I don't want to do, all this other nonsense. And I don't want people to know about me. And I can't work on every single project, all the time myself. And yeah, I think it's tough. I think it's tough. It just depends on what you want out of the business.
Yeah, I think that the thing that that I was thinking as you were speaking was about that component of being able to sell the business at some point. I mean, that's not something you're thinking of when you're starting the business. It's something you think of at the end, but you've built a book of business. You're well known in the area. I mean, there are people who have restaurants that are have been in the family for, 35, 40 years. They're, plumbing businesses that have been around for that long or longer, and those get passed down or sold. And, it's a business you built up, and it's an asset. It should be an asset, but often even with big names, it becomes difficult because your name is that business. Even iconic designers that I know of have struggled with that because, oftentimes the most successful approach to that is bringing on a full partner, and then renaming the business a hyphenated, like in a law firm, and then transitioning sort of out more to like an advisory role as you retire. But it's not necessarily, it is difficult if it is Laurie Laizure interior design. How am I going to sell Laurie Laizure design if Laurie Laizure doesn't work there? And and that's something I've struggled with even for interior design community. I think it's such a valuable resource for people, but it does take me to run it. And, but I hope that at some point, not to sell it, but that it becomes, if for whatever reason I died tomorrow, I knock on wood that I don't, but I would want it to go on. I would want someone to take it over because because of the value it gives to the community. And I'm sure there are designers that have businesses that way too, that they are the kitchen designer in their area that is really needed in their area. Maybe it's somewhere where there aren't other kitchen designers, and that service going away and waiting until someone starts a new business in that area, who knows when that's going to happen. So it's a difficult thing. And how do you think that designers, such a hard thing to think about the future in that way. How do you suggest they think about the future from the beginning?
I mean, I always work in increments of 5 years. So, when I'm taking my clients through my brand strategy framework, and one of the first couple of things that we really define is the vision statement, which is like a whole lot of thinking that basically goes into 2 sentences, which is, if your business is successful, if it achieves everything that you want it to achieve, what does that look like in 5 years? Like literally, what does it look like? What kind of projects are you doing? How much money are you making? How much, time, schedule flexibility do you have? Where are you doing this work? And I think it's really hard to, I just think it's really hard to look at, especially with technology, the rate of technological change that there's been. I think it's hard to look out past 5 years. And plus your life changes, you don't know, like you get married and like your spouse, has to relocate, or, you have kids, and like now you're trying to manage a different schedule, or you cannot travel that much. So I don't even know if it's possible for most people to like look out 20 years. But even if you're not talking about selling the business in terms of your presence as a personality owner in it, it's just as likely, in my experience with my clients, that even if you're not actively thinking about, eventually selling your business, you do come to a point in your business where you have the flexibility to do more of the stuff that you want to do and less of the stuff that you don't want to do. So you can hire, you're in a position where you can hire an operations manager so that you don't have to spend so much time doing like the admin work, or you can do just the hospitality projects, or you can do just the out of town projects. But it's going to be something that doesn't require your participation in every aspect of the business. Like you have to do everything, when you're first starting out. Yeah. So, even if you want to step back in any way, just because you want to do, you just want to do the fun parts of the business, you still have to take that into consideration, because you don't want to set up this expectation where you're disappointing folks who are expecting to work with you,
Work with
you
you.
know, the whole time. How do you handle that, Michael?
I've been thinking of a couple different things, and I did want to add, we started this conversation about, the origin of the branding for the person starting out in a trade. And a lot of us have worked for other people where our name wasn't recognized and the company's name was. So breaking out of that shell, all we wanted to do was be recognized and noticed, and hey, it's me, and this is what I do, and you can work with me, and establishing your business that way. And when you spoke of different, Kris, you spoke earlier of differentiating yourself amongst the other designers in your respective area. And that personality is one of the things that I strive to get across, because my ideal client is someone who understands, who I am and my personality, and knows that I'm passionate about my craft, but I also like to have fun. It's a very serious thing that we do, working with people's lives in their homes. And I think that adding levity here and there is important at the right time, of course. And, you need to work with someone, I think, where I am in my career, that can mirror that, or that I can mirror them, and we can work together that way. Because if we're not simpatico in this relationship, it's just not enjoyable. And I don't want to work just to work. I want to have fun at what I'm doing. And anyone building their own brand, they really, it's such a scary thing to come out and say, this is who I am, this is what I like, this is what I'm good at, without marked progress behind you. But then when you get some traction in our industry, you have to spread your wings and say that. I always tell people, don't be afraid. What do you have to lose? The only thing you're going to do if you fail is learn a lesson, and then you'll only improve from there. And branding is one of those things, Kris, that I think a lot of us, as you know, we're stumbling, trying something and backing off, and then trying something else. And we're not sure if there is a pattern. I think Laurie had spoke of that earlier, of like, what are the steps, right? And it's like, there's got to be some kind of layering and some momentum that's gained through that layering, so that we know we're headed in the right direction. What signifies that we're doing it right? Is it that we're getting more calls, we're getting more business, we're making more money? Or is it our happiness, right? Is a combination of all these things. And that's why I have such a great respect for what you do, because it's multifaceted and multidimensional. And you can't just put your finger down on one thing and say, this is branding. We're going to start here, and we're going to get there eventually. My question for you would be, what's your suggestion for the person starting out as the first thing to really focus on about themselves and getting their voice out there? And specifically with social media, is it people seeing you doing things? Is it photography? Is it video? Is it actually the auditory response people will have from hearing your voice? What do you think takes precedence today, or where we're at right now?
Such a good question, because everybody has, different opportunities at the point that they're starting out. But I think that the very first best thing that you can do is just try and figure out what makes you different from the other people who are in your same position, who are also offering the same service. Why would somebody come to you? Like, what is it that you have to offer? And like, what is the ultimate benefit that your client is going to receive from working with you? And it's not easy. Like,
it's definitely tricky.
I mean, it's just not like a plug and play formula. But you also have to be, it forces you to get honest about yourself, what you're good at and not good at, and also what you really want, and to be honest about what you want. I mean, I think that if you're talking about just like the business in general, and what's considered, good business practices, according to like, Harvard Business School, it's like scale, grow, profits, like get big, and that is just, I mean, that is one factor, but there are a lot of different reasons why people get into business, especially creatives, why creatives get into business for themselves. I mean, there's there's personal satisfaction, there's schedule flexibility, there is that, wanting people to recognize what you're doing creatively. Like there's a lot of different reasons. So, understanding like being honest with yourself about what it is that you want. But anything that you can say on any platform about what is particularly, special about you or what you bring to the table that's different from somebody else, just even so somebody can remember you, there are other people who do branding, but, I was a magazine editor for, National Magazine for 20 years. And, and I built the content marketing department at Wayfair, and I've been consulting, for 10 years. And like, there's just, I don't know if there's somebody else out there who has like journalistic, home design, marketing, that kind of business, and that like high level sort of like home industry, landscape knowledge. Like I'm just like, it's just a very particular, path that I've been on. So, I like really blending of the bit of the business marketing and the home design together. But everybody has something, about them.
What I think is really fascinating about what you just said was anyone out there listening or watching this should not be, a lot of interior designers had a career before they ventured into this. And they shouldn't leave it off the table that they share or integrate their past experience with the interior design business, and to show people that this really is a holistic model. And don't be afraid. You don't have to say, people are so afraid of their identity and this whole imposter syndrome thing about not being good enough, not having enough experience. However, you may be very well apt at dealing with people and counseling people and nurturing the relationship of trust and just having communicative skills. That's a huge
Yes.
plus. It's
Oh my
like
gosh,
a
yes.
doctor without bedside manner is the first thing that comes
Yes.
to mind, right? So everybody should really look at their tools and, know that they have something to offer.
It's so true. Yeah, especially for career changers, if you
Mhm.
have any kind of experience that you have, like interior design is such an emotionally intimate business. I mean, you have to get people to trust you. You have to know these like really personal things about them that maybe they don't really want to share, that like, they don't want to sleep in the same bed, or, like somebody has a health issue that it really would be better if they had two separate toilet rooms, or whatever
Mhm.
it is, or they have, maybe there are, some special needs with their kids in their family, or they like have 5 dogs and there's like, and the dogs aren't well trained and they're always pooping on the floor. Like it could be, like you have to have those.
Lifestyle issues.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to have those conversations with people in order to serve them well. It's a whole other skill set other than just the design,
And about the conviction that you have having those conversations, that's really important too, because when you're talking about delicate matters with people internally, hygiene rooms, things of that nature that you just spoke about, you have to come across as confident and like, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I'm giving you the best advice possible. I need you to trust me because you're going to spend a lot of money on this project and we're going to do it right one time. That's it. So that very good point there.
I didn't think we were gonna go to dog poop in this conversation, but there it is.
But there it
Yeah,
is. And that's pretty much how we're ending it too, guys.
on a good note.
So that's wonderful. But yes, and Kris, where can people find you online if they're interested in hiring you today?
LoudHouseBranding.com is my website. And, folks you can even email me at Kris@LoudHouseBranding.com, and my Instagram, you can message me on Instagram at LoudHouseBranding. Typically, not typically, always, I will take people through a through a brand strategy process. And I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents. The reason why I myself rebranded from Kris Kennedy strategy, which is what I had been, the prior 9 or 10 years, to LoudHouse Branding, is that I had been doing, like the full suite of business development, brand strategy, content strategy. Like people would come to me, I would solve a lot of different problems, but always, 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 those problems always were solved if we started with brand strategy first. I just think it is so important in terms of being able to make every business decision operationally and marketing in your business easier. So it doesn't matter what issues you have in your business. I always make people start with that, where we talk about things like ideal client and what's the mission of your business and what's your brand personality and what are your messaging priorities, what are the values of your company. Because if you know the answers to those questions, every other decision you have to make, whether that's like a staffing hiring issue, whether it's, whether to invest in a certain, which software you use or what social media channels to be on, all of those questions are like 1,000 times easier to answer if you've already figured out what your strategy is, the answers to these eight components of a brand strategy. So that's what I do.
That is amazing. I mean, honestly, I'm here. I'm sure I can visualize every interior designer out there with a big light bulb above their head going, okay, it's because it sheds light on everything else, right? I mean, that's the point. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Kris. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Michael, for coming on.
My
And
pleasure.
Nice to
This was
meet you,
great. This was
Michael.
great.
Yes.
Very nice to meet you, Kris.
And come back for us next week. We're going to have another exciting podcast. Stop recording. All right. Stop the video. Stop record. Oh,